is Valley News Live at 4.
Well, new at 4, new court documents allege that a large amount of drugs are what led to a helicopter to hover and dozens of local and federal officers to raid a Fargo home in September. Now, according to documents, the home in a Hawthorne neighborhood was one of many in Fargo at the center of a months-long investigation into a meth distribution ring. Now, 10 people have been charged with distribution of and conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance. On August 6th of this year, court documents state that one of the defendants was observed by surveillance units outside of the 300 block of 4th Street South in Fargo, where they were believed to be dropping off meth. Surveillance was also conducted around 2 other areas, including where the raid took place on 7th Street South. Now, to read more about this story, just download the VNL News app. And police have arrested one man in connection to an outdoor fire and then over in the 900 block of 14th Street North that took place around midnight. Officials say the flames ended up reaching a nearby garage and starting the side of it on fire. Flames were 10 feet high at one point, but it took fire crews just under 5 minutes to put out the flames. And police say abandoned keys to a vehicle registered to 29-year-old Jacob Metcalf of Fargo were found at the scene. Metcalf was wanted for questioning in relation to a different recent fire case. FPD officers were reviewing the details of that previous case when Metcalf came back to the area, and police say that he was intoxicated and was looking for his car keys. Metcalf has since been arrested on 1 count of arson for his involvement with the fire. And a trailer was badly damaged after a fire broke out at a South Fargo mobile home court. Fire crews arrived at Countryside Trailer Court around 2:15 this morning. The fire was put out within 20 minutes, and there was no estimate at this time on the extent of those damages. Well, it is 4 o'clock now, and taking a look at our Skycam, things are looking really nice out there right now, but our temperatures might be dipping up a little bit too, so we want to send things over to Summer Schnellbach with a closer look at what we'll see. Summer?
My favorite term for that is deceptive sunshine. It looks gorgeous, but it's quite chilly out there. Look at this scene from this morning. This is a water feeder thing full of water for livestock. I'm not sure what the official term is for that. By Mandy Schroeder. This was in Walcott, North Dakota. Quite a cold morning. In fact, here's a look at our morning low temperatures. In Grand Forks, low temperature dipped down to 14. 18 here in Fargo and Fosston, 19 in Roseau, 16 in Valley City, and 16 in Langdon as well. The coldest spot not pictured on this map, 11 degrees up in Wales, North Dakota. That is in Cavalier County. Let's take a look right now. Temperatures have warmed into the 30s, so it has been a chilly day. Still only at 32 in Bemidji, 34 in Thief River, 36 here in Fargo. We do have a 40-degree reading in Jamestown, but with the breeze, feels like we're in the 20s in most places. Feels like 25 in Fargo, 26 in Fergus Falls. Feels like 26 in Wadena, 22 in Bemidji. Bobby, tonight is going to be even colder. We're getting ready for our coldest night yet this season. I'll let you know just how low those temperatures drop and when we see a warm up on the way coming up in a few minutes.
So get the beanie ready, get the big coat ready, get ready to turn on the heater, get ready for everything. Summer, thank you so much. Well, Russia is once again targeting Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv. The latest deadly attacks on civilians include increased use of drones, which the U.S. says are coming from Iran. Skylar Henry has the very latest.
As police took aim at drones in the skies over Kyiv, civilians scrambled for cover. Ukraine says the Russians have stepped up attacks with suicide drones which explode on impact. A drone destroyed an apartment building in the capital, where local officials say at least 3 people died. The strikes are once again targeting civilians. Payback, many believe, for Ukraine blowing up a key bridge in territory occupied by Russia.
The most recent escalation, the United States strongly condemns Russia's missile strikes today, which continue to demonstrate Putin's brutality.
Today's attacks come after Russia claimed over the weekend that Ukraine shelled the city of Belgorod, just over the border, wounding civilians. The Biden administration recently promised an additional $725 million in aid to Ukraine, but the military hardware won't include air defense systems.
Для України це частина.
And that's what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his nation needs the most: He believes Russian airstrikes will end when Ukraine receives a sufficient quantity of modern and effective air defense systems. And while Russia keeps the pressure on from the air, Moscow is working to mobilize 300,000 reservists, calling up to reinforce ground troops in Ukraine. Skyler Henry, CBS News, Washington.
And the total amount of U.S. aid to Ukraine is now almost at $18 billion. Well, according to Minnesota state officials, nearly 1 million bonus payments have been delivered to Minnesota's frontline workers. The frontline workers are receiving $487.45 for working through the pandemic. And today, the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry said that everyone who was approved for the payments and submitted valid payment information have received their money. Now, anyone whose payment attempt failed will be contacted either by email or phone. The department said that other people will also have until 5 p.m. on Friday to update their information. Well, business owners in West Fargo, be on alert as there is a new scam to pay attention to. The city of West Fargo says that some West Fargo businesses have reported receiving notification from the West Fargo Award Program of their selection as Best of West Fargo and are being asked to purchase an award, plaque, or trophy. Now, the city says that these notifications originate from an overseas site with no affiliation to the city of West Fargo or any local organizations, and they recommend any business owner who receives this type of email to not respond or click on any links. Well, happening tomorrow, you are invited to give your input on a proposed pedestrian bridge to be built near Fargo City Hall and over 2nd Street North. Now, according to the project's website, its purpose is to address demands for additional bicycle and pedestrian facilities in downtown Fargo with connectivity to the Red River of the North. There will be 2 opportunities to provide input and to ask questions. That's happening tomorrow, the first from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. in the City Commission chambers at City Hall, and the second will be held from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. in the City Hall's lobby. Well, some NDSU students are planning to protest the appearance of conservative politician commentator Candace Owens on campus. She is scheduled to speak at an event tonight. Now, students are expected to protest outside the NDSU Memorial Union from 5:30 to 9 tonight. According to a Facebook event post, students will be protesting against the spread of hate that Candace Owens voices. And well, a viral challenge apparently made several middle school students in Minnesota sick last week. Several students at a middle school in Adena reported eye pain and difficulty breathing after attempting the one-chip challenge. Now, the one-chip challenge involves eating a single tortilla chip that is made with the hottest pepper on the planet, the Carolina Reaper. Then the key is to see how long you can go without drinking milk or water. Several school districts across the country have already banned the chips from school premises due to the risk of adverse effects. And the North Dakota Department of Transportation is encouraging parents to talk to their teens about the importance of wearing a seatbelt as part of National Driver Safety Week. Officials say that wearing a seatbelt at all times, transporting children in child passenger safety seats appropriate for the child, driving distraction-free, and driving sober and obeying speed limits are all ways to avoid motor vehicle crashes as they continue to be the leading cause of injury-related deaths for North Dakota teens. Fatal crashes in North Dakota have almost doubled in recent years.